Hey guys, happy Halloween!
Welcome back.
This is a scary month, so we're gonna have all kinds of scary true crime stuff: zombies, vampires, werewolves. Well, guess what? Today we're gonna talk about 3 vampire-related true stories. You're not gonna want to miss it, and it's a special treat. If you were with us last year, you'll see it again right now. Our little special Halloween intro. We'll be right back.
What's today's topic?
Want a hint?
Sure.
How's this?
Oh, I remember now. Today we will be talking about some actual vampire true crimes. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Vampires.
Woohoo! Oh, I was trying my vampire teeth. I don't have them today. All right, guys. Before we get into the 3 vampire true crime stories we're going to talk about today, or cases,
Yes, it's your girl Shuvak,
and this is Ed.
and this is for education entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research and always be kind to everyone, everywhere.
And if you're new and you just saw that little skit of those characters, those are our AI crime force team that AI created, and they use AI tools to help us bring these cases to life here. So let's get started with 3 vampire true crimes. All right. So the first one they're going to talk about is James P. I can't say it. Riva, the vampire killer. So let's check this one out. The vampire killer.
James P. Riva, the vampire killer. James P. Riva is a convicted murderer who became infamous as the vampire killer due to his disturbing belief that he was a vampire. His crime was particularly shocking because it involved the murder of his own grandmother in 1980. James P. Riva was 23 years old at the time of the murder. He suffered from severe delusions and claimed he was a 500-year-old vampire. He believed he needed to drink human blood to survive and that higher vampires were commanding him to unalive. The murder, April 10, 1980. Riva's 74-year-old grandmother, Carmen Lopez, was wheelchair-bound and lived in her Massachusetts home. He shot her twice in the heart using gold-painted bullets, which he thought had mystical properties. He then drank her blood and set the house on fire to cover up the crime. Capture and trial. Riva was quickly arrested, and during interrogation, he claimed that vampires controlled him and ordered him to unalive his grandmother so she could become a vampire too. Despite these bizarre claims, he was found competent to stand trial. He was convicted of second-degree murder and arson and sentenced to life in prison. James P.
Oops, sorry about that, guys. So, let's take a step for a second. Let's take a step and talk about that one specifically. So, obviously, people say this is obviously some therapy was needed. The person obviously was disturbed. There's some people on one side would say it's probably because of all the movies and all the sensationalism and games and different things that people, believe that this type of stuff can be real. But it's really sad when, you see something like this. Obviously, people say, well, this is not a real vampire case. Well, I mean, there's elements of drinking blood, but he really believed he was a vampire.
Yes, he did.
And never mind, we're going to talk, too bad we're not conspiracy theory channel, because there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are claiming to do disgusting stuff like this. But anyhow, what are your thoughts, Sure?
Yes, I definitely think there was, even though he watched probably that, I think it could be a mixture, but he definitely has some type of mental illness to even think that he was a vampire. That is just like crazy right there, just to even, but he had mental illness, I think he did.
And he wasn't a vampire serial killer. It was just one. So it's weird how he got that name, but I guess,
He drunk blood.
Yeah. So that was kind of weird. All right, now let's get on to Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento. So let's see how this one went down.
Sacramento.
Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento. He was a notorious American serial killer who earned the nickname the Vampire of Sacramento due to his gruesome crimes involving blood drinking and organ mutilation. His case is one of the most disturbing examples of severe mental illness leading to violent murder. Born on May 23, 1950, in Santa Clara, California, Chase exhibited troubling behavior from a young age. He showed signs of the McDonald triad, bedwetting, arson, and animal cruelty, which is sometimes linked to violent tendencies in adulthood. He suffered from severe paranoid schizophrenia, which worsened in his teens and early adulthood. Chase developed deep delusions about his body, believing his blood was turning to powder and that someone had stolen his pulmonary artery. He attempted self-treatment by injecting animal blood into his veins, which led to a brief hospitalization. Chase's delusions escalated, leading him to believe that drinking blood and eating organs would keep him alive. He moved from unaliving and mutilating animals to targeting humans. First murder, December 29, 1977. Chase shot Ambrose Griffin, a 51-year-old man, in a random drive-by shooting. Second murder, January 23, 1978, broke into the home of Teresa Wallen, a pregnant woman. Shot her 3 times, then mutilated her body, removed organs, drank her blood, and engaged in necrophilia. Left bizarre handprints made of blood throughout the house. Massacre, January 27, 1978. Entered the home of Evelyn Miroth, where he unalived Evelyn, her son Jason, her nephew David, just 22 months old, and a family friend, Dan Meredith.
That is so sad.
He cannibalized parts of Evelyn's body, bathed in her blood, and took her infant's body with him. The police found horrific crime scenes, with blood smeared across the walls and body parts missing. Capture and trial. Arrested on January 27, 1978, after police connected him to a fingerprint and eyewitness reports. Found at his apartment, which was covered in blood-stained rags, organs in a blender, and human remains. Diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, but the court ruled he was sane enough for trial. Convicted of 6 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death in the gas chamber. On December 26, 1980, Chase was found dead in his cell after overdosing on antidepressants that he had been hoarding. His death was ruled a self-murder.
All right, let's take a quick little shot there.
That is crazy.
So, as you can tell, guys, you're probably thinking, okay, well, that was gross. So, you see how we snuck in there? We start off with a real mild one, and then whammo with this one.
This one is a big impact.
What do you think?
Yeah, this is crazy. Like, one thing I really realize is that they all have something in common. Imagine being a police officer and you coming to a crime.
Goodness.
Like, I know they got some interesting stories. Imagine it just makes you want to,
Yeah, it is gross. I mean, obviously we went to the first one, which is a shocker by itself with the drinking of blood. Then we go into this, we don't have to go into the details, but he did a lot more than just that.
Yeah, I mean,
this is more of a serial killer. So we went from one
the beautiful
to
kids,
serial,
the
and
beautiful
now
kids.
Guess what we're going to talk about next? Now we're going to amp it up. When I say amp it up, now it's just a little different when we look to pick out these cases. The next one is Rod Farrell, the Vampire Clan murders.
Yeah, this is a good one.
So we'll see how this one goes here.
Rod Farrell, the Vampire Clan murders. Rod Farrell was a self-proclaimed vampire cult leader who committed a brutal double homicide in 1996. His case is one of the most infamous examples of how teen rebellion, delusions, and role-playing games spiraled into real-life violence.
And stuff.
Born on March 28, 1980, in Murray, Kentucky. Farrell was obsessed with vampire mythology and the role-playing game Vampire: The Masquerade. He claimed to be a 500-year-old vampire named Isago. Led a small group of teenagers who called themselves the Vampire Clan. The group engaged in blood-drinking rituals, and Farrell encouraged them to reject human morality. The murders, November 25, 1996. Farrell and his followers traveled from Kentucky to Eustis, Florida, to help 15-year-old Heather Wendorf escape from her family. Heather allegedly complained about her parents, which Farrell took as justification for murder. Victims, Richard and Ruth Wendorf. Farrell and Howard Scott Anderson, 16 years old, entered the Wendorf home while the couple slept. Farrell bludgeoned Richard Wendorf, Heather's father, to death with a crowbar, leaving burns from a cigarette on his body as a mark.
No.
He then beat Ruth Wendorf, Heather's mother, to death when she entered the room. The killers stole the family's Ford Explorer and fled. Heather Wendorf was not present during the murders and later claimed she was unaware they would happen. Capture and trial. The group was caught in Louisiana when an acquaintance tipped off police. During questioning, Farrell boasted about the unalivings, showing no remorse. At trial, he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder to avoid the death penalty. He was originally sentenced to death, making him the youngest person on death row at the time.
Wow.
In 2000,
Yeah,
his
surprised they
sentence
did
was
that.
reduced to life without parole after the Supreme Court ruled that juveniles couldn't be executed.
Right.
Where is Rod Farrell now? Farrell remains in prison without the possibility of parole. His accomplice, Howard Scott Anderson, also received a life sentence, but later had his sentence reduced to 40 years. Heather Wendorf was not charged with any crimes.
Thanks, Crime Force. That was good
Thank you, guys.
and a little disturbing. Oh, we should have had them dress up in Halloween
Right.
stuff.
What happened?
Oh my
Got me
goodness,
dressed
I'm
up, but they're not
slacking
dressed
off.
up.
But anyhow, so what do you think of that? The
That-
Klan.
The Klan is crazy because the problem is you are kind of mentally, and then you get other people involved.
Yep.
Like, that is just crazy. And the power that they have, and they just going around and doing that, that is just something that's flabbergasted, right? My word.
So you can see that was the method of my madness introducing these 3, going with the one very simple. They could say, well, is it really vampire? But in his mind, he thought he was.
Yeah.
Then going to a serial killer and then going into a Klan. There was obviously a lot more cases, believe it or not, guys. There are more that are related to the vampire genre. That related to true crime, people who believe it a lot more. But I want to save those for another time. Maybe either next. Well, I don't want to wait till next Halloween, but we'll maybe do a couple of those going forward. Let us know in the comments if you want us
Right,
to
exactly.
do more of those
Because
cases.
we notice you like a lot of this.
Creepy stuff.
Yeah,
The unusual stuff.
Yeah.
So, but let me. Your comments before we go
Well,
into
no,
the
I
final.
just think these are definitely interesting cases. They are different, and it's just like something that you won't think that happened, but these things are happened. And I noticed that it's not like in the 1900s. This is like 1980. This is like current,
Yeah.
right? Most of y'all have been alive when this happened. Maybe some of you even know about these cases. Write it in the comments.
And I know, when you're dealing with teen stuff or just people who feel like they're lost or don't have a purpose, people try to get famous by doing this stuff. And, unfortunately at any age, you see it with older people getting into these religious cults, and they're older, they should know better, but the young minds and, you feel invincible, and again, it's a cool quote at a cult. I could dress up and be like a vampire, I know,
Right.
and
Yeah.
drugs and everything gets involved.
And
It's
a lot of
crazy.
people blame it a lot on the media and all of the stuff
The
that's
games,
been
the
going on. The
movies,
games, those
it's
games, some of them games is
part
just
of it, but it's
Yeah.
really goes deeper than that.
yeah. I think it's definitely a mixture of that and other things too. You have to be mentally ill then
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
well. So
Hey, thank you guys for joining. That means the most to
Yes.
us. It's just come and
Please
view, come and
subscribe
watch.
and
That's the biggest thing. But
become a
please
member
subscribe.
if you're one. That'd be awesome. We will love that. And we can give you a shout out. And sometimes if you'll say, hey, I want you to cover this case, we do those for members only.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll keep an eye out. When we get members in and you bring in comments, let us know. We will do the best we can to cover that case. And if it's something we don't even have already programmed, because we do our schedule way ahead of time, we'll do a special.
Yes.
We don't mind at all. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. Happy Halloween. Be safe this month. And until next time.
Studio 7-0.